Well, good evening and welcome back to the Relational Leadership 911 chat series When Crisis and Courage Collide. This virtual podcast, video podcast, virtual summit, whatever you want to call it, hopefully it's been a life changing and career impacting series. Has been running for about 8 weeks strong now. And I just appreciate all the feedback that I've been getting as far as how this series, this virtual summit, has helped leaders all across the globe with the content, the different diverse speakers we've been bringing to you. And I don't anticipate tonight being any different. I want to start by asking you a simple question. What if your next meal could begin your journey to optimal health? So imagine building up your immune system, right, to be so powerful that you can beat heart disease, diabetes, cancer, high blood pressure, and even fight off this coronavirus. Where my guest today is going to teach us how we can boost our immune system for the pandemic and even beyond. Georgia Wright-Lane, my dear friend, my new friend, is a wisdom wealth coach, dubbing health as wealth. You see, after losing her husband to cancer and healing her daughters through a plant based diet, she fully committed herself to providing wellness consulting, flavorful plant based meals, yes, flavorful, which is what got my attention, and really food transition support. So her famous quote is every time you eat, you're either feeding a disease or fighting a disease. So, what side of that scale do you want to be on? I know what side I want to be on, and that's why I'm excited to sit down with her today. I think it's fair to say that this topic is relevant for all of us. We all eat food, right? And so we've had different leaders come across this series, talk about different things in the areas of leadership. But this right here, I think we all can relate to. And so without further ado, I want to welcome my good friend, my new friend, Miss Georgia Wright-Lane to the show. Hey, Miss Georgia.
Hello. Hey, my brother. How are you?
I am very well. Thank you for asking. Well, I say that I'm well. I feel well. I feel like I'm doing good. But,
hmm
after having the mini consult that I had with you, I'm like, am I really as well and in good health as I think I am?
hmm
But you'll help us discover that. I want to first thank you for taking the time to join me on this video podcast, this virtual summit. I think you have a wealth of information that you are going to impact for us over the next 60 minutes. And so, for all of those who are watching with us, as always, first, make sure you engage with us. Send some questions in the chat. That way, we know that we are still live. We haven't lost the feed and that we got you out there, but we can also answer some of those questions during our session. I'm also going to ask that you share this. I typically don't do that, but I feel like this topic everybody can relate to. Everybody eats food, whether we've been doing a good job of that or we haven't. And I think with the COVID-19, we probably are not doing as a good of a job as we used to. So share this out so that all your friends and families can tune in into this much needed discussion. And Miss Georgia, if you're ready, I am ready.
I'm ready. Hey.
All right, let's get into it. So I want to first say, because COVID-19 is at the hearts and mind of everybody, and we'll kind of start right there. But before we even do that, why do you have this phrase that health is wealth? It's all over your website, and as you and I were talking, you said that a couple times. Why do you say health is wealth?
Well, I say health is wealth because, when I was young growing up and you hear about people being rich or wealthy, you think that that's like the end all be all.
Hmm.
But it's only when you have clients who have millions of dollars and they're sick and you realize that their health has more value at that moment than their assets. And you realize the true wealth is really your health,
Got
you
it.
know?
Because
Yeah.
if you're not healthy, you can't enjoy all of those things
Yeah.
that you accumulated in a sense.
hmm
Perfect. That
Yeah.
makes sense. And so now with COVID-19 changing our lifestyles and shaking
hmm
things up, I know my routine has been off when it comes to my eating and exercising.
hmm
Before we even get into really the heart of your story, just on the front of this conversation, I want to say, what type of bad habits have you seen people adopt during this pandemic, while we've been working from home? And I shared some of my personal habits with you, what you called me out on. But what other things have you seen in terms of bad habits that people have adopted?
Well, studies have shown that people are drinking more alcohol and alcohol is very high in sugar.
Okay.
I go to the grocery store, and as I was sharing with you the other day, I do judge. I look in the grocery carts because you want to kind of get an idea of what are people eating these days. You know what you're eating, but not everyone is necessarily eating what you're eating, whether it's better or worse. And when I look in the grocery carts, oh my gosh, I'm seeing the sugary drinks, I'm seeing
Mm,
the ice cream, I'm seeing the Coca-Cola. So it's not just alcohol. The indulgences, you see the jokes and the memes about, when I get out of this quarantine, I won't be able to get through the door. And there's this one that I saw, you're either going to be a chunk or a hunk when you
wow.
get out of the pandemic. And it's funny, but it's sad because a lot of us are so caught up with not catching COVID-19 and staying, away from people who are infected. But I say to a friend of mine recently, I think the big worry is getting out of this pandemic with heart disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes,
Hmm.
cancer. That is my concern for a lot of people because I don't think anyone at this time is thinking about health and wellness. It's kind of like, during the time when it's cold, you kind of hunker down your home, you eat more. So studies show that you gain more weight when
Hmm.
you are in the winter time than you do in the summertime. Summertime is nice, you're outside, you're, riding your bike, you're working out because you want to get the summer body. But in the winter time, that's usually around the holidays where you indulge in the cakes and the pies and the cookies and the treats. Well, that's what people are doing now. In addition to the
Mm.
fact that people are not as active because, a lot of these gyms are still closed. And even if they are open, the fear is there, the concern is there that once you go there, you might expose yourself to the virus and other things. And so my biggest concern as I see individuals now is, oh my gosh, how do you survive this with eating worse than you were eating before? Because when this is over, we're gonna be a very unhealthy nation.
Got it. One of the questions came in, can drinking lots of water flush out COVID-19? Just putting it out there.
Well, drinking a lot of water, period, is good for flushing out anything. I mean, oftentimes we go to the doctor and we have like a respiratory infection or any type of viral infection, whether it's a common cold, the flu, regular flu, any type of virus, and we're told to drink a lot of water, not just to flush out the virus, but to stay hydrated also and replenish, the electrolytes in our body. So I think it would be wise for everyone to drink a lot of water.
Hmm.
Now, when you say a lot of water, you have to be careful because if you gulp down a gallon of water, there's an illness, there's a condition that you can have because now your body has low sodium. So it is recommended that you drink half your body weight in water. So if you weigh say 180 pounds, you should be doing about 90 ounces
Okay.
of water. I met someone recently, she weighs 150 pounds and she was drinking about 98, she said,
Mm,
ounces of water. And I'm like, just be careful with
yeah,
that, drinking too much water,
that's a great
or
point.
drinking it in large gulps instead of sipping it.
Throughout the day.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I thought that
Oh,
was an
and the point
interesting
also,
question. Yeah, go
too,
ahead.
if I may add, she wasn't active. So it's one thing if you're working out or you're out working in the sun and the heat and you're perspiring, but she's very sedentary. She works from home now because of the pandemic. And so she
Got
wasn't
it.
really doing herself any justice, drinking 98 ounces of water
Got it.
a day.
Okay, so it wasn't making up for like water being lost, that
No.
type of intake. That makes sense. So I am. We all hear the accent. We and I have to ask. They're already asking, where are you from? Where's the accent from?
Well, I'm Jamaican.
All right.
I came to America when I was 13 years old, and I've been here for over 30 some odd years. But I was born in Jamaica. I grew up with my grandmother, and my father came to America when I was a little girl, and immigrated here shortly after. But I still have my accent because I stay close to my culture. I go home at least once a year. Everything about Jamaica, I love the herbs, the food. When I say herbs, not the other herbs, but like the plants, the plants.
Oh, that is funny. So let's get into your story because you were a very successful wisdom wealth coach and investment advisor before becoming a certified raw vegan chef and health educator. and you've spoken openly about losing your husband to cancer and how that really led to where you are now. So, why was your husband's cancer diagnosis so pivotal to like you and where you are now, and how did it shape that and this plant-based journey that you're on? Let's share with us your story, Georgia.
Well, it's weird how everything started. It was kind of odd because I had started a Daniel fast, and it was a 21-day fast where you cannot eat any meat or processed food or anything with animal products. No dairy, no eggs, strictly plant-based. So you could say it was a vegan diet. And about 4 days into the Daniel fast, my husband got diagnosed with cancer. And I just remember that moment. I'd already done my research on just what it's like to have a plant-based diet. So I went into the Daniel fast really committed. I wasn't one of those people going, "Oh my gosh, I got to give up burgers. What am I going to do? I can't eat meat for 21 days." I mean, I was so committed and I was ready to just dive in, and I dove in. And
Okay.
so when he got diagnosed, I said, I've been hearing a lot about nutrition and health and cancer. And I'd met someone who her cancer was cured. Her diet and implementing certain minerals, supplements, and natural herbal
Okay.
supplements. And so I said to my husband, would you consider if, you just try going plant based and see what would happen? And so because I was already preparing my meals and they were plant based meals, he said, okay, I'll consider it. And so I watched the pain going away, him going to the doctor 6 months after his diagnosis, and they're like, "What's going on? You don't have any pain." He was working out 5 days a week, going to the gym. They he, they just could not understand someone who was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer just being able to go about his regular day. And so we watched it. We try to be as consistent as possible.
Hmm.
We made juices, natural juices, smoothies, a lot of chickpea. I mean, he ate chickpea and mushroom and kale every day until one day he was like, "I'm tired of this. Can we find something else to make that's delicious?" And I thought, okay, let's try to use the same meals that we would normally eat, but we'll substitute it with a protein, a protein.
Okay.
So I would make chili. I would make tacos, and all the things that I would make, I would just remove the meat.
Okay.
So it wasn't until my husband had a sugar I was guess you could say a sugar addiction, like a lot of us.
Hmm.
It's real. Well, he loved baked goods. He grew up in a family where his father was a pastry chef, so he was accustomed to cakes and
Oh,
cookies
wow.
and pies. And we're talking about the best of the best. His father was a great pastry chef.
Okay.
And so I think, it was just something that was in him to have sugar. It wasn't that he didn't know that he should eat healthier meals. And so we eliminated sugar for a while and we saw a significant improvement in his health. And so even though my husband was diagnosed with terminal cancer, we're talking about pancreatic cancer, stage 4, and a liver that was metastasized with cancer. He was given 3 to 6 months to live. However, he lived 2 years and 3 months. And the doctor said to me, your husband could have lived longer, but, the sugar did him in. And so
Mm.
when she said that, I was like, wow. But I was also able to see how much longer he lived because he had changed, his lifestyle
Yeah.
somewhat to accommodate, less processed foods, less sugar, when we were doing the juices. But it was just, you know, the sugar, the lure of the sugar, it was just there. And I realized at that point, I really need to educate people on the dangers of sugar and
Hmm.
also nutrition, what it does to the body when your immune system have been compromised.
Wow.
And so that was it for me. That I don't know if that explains that moment where
Yeah.
I realized this is something that I'm so passionate about. I mean, I hate cancer with a vengeance, and I feel like the way I get my crusade out, my mission out, is not to just put these hashtags on my social media.
Hmm.
I hate cancer and race for the cure and run for the cure, but how about if I educate people on the dangers of certain foods and how beneficial certain foods are to their health?
Wow. So you mentioned smoothies, you mentioned chickpeas and kale. What are some of the other things you were doing? And you took out meat. What else were you like eating, because you said the doctors anticipated 3 to 6 months, and he ended up living, you said, almost 3 years past
Yeah.
that. Wow.
Well, there are also natural plants that have medicinal purposes, but you do have to understand that the general public will not be told about these plants because the pharmaceutical companies, they will not profit from
Mm.
these natural plants that you could go to a herbal store and get for $15
Okay.
and go home and boil and drink. So my husband saw a naturopathic doctor who provided him with detox for his liver, detox for his blood, parasite cleanses, detox for his colon. I started reading books. I started educating myself. One book in particular I read was by Dr. Professor Arnold Arad. I think he wrote this book back in 1952. It's called The Mucusless Diet. And that book talks about the foods that we eat that causes inflammation in our bodies, and that the root of diseases is really mucus in the body. When the body becomes so toxic, so inflamed by acidic foods, the pH balance of the body goes down because the body needs to be alkaline because
Mm.
a disease cannot survive in an alkaline body. And so you eat for alkalinity and not eat the foods that are going to cause acidity in the body.
Got it. And so you mentioned that you feel the doctor even said that he probably could have lived longer had it not been for sugar. And I think when you and I were talking, you said that sugar is more addictive than cocaine. Is and what is it about sugar, and what is it doing to our bodies, and the different types of sugar that we intake? Can you educate us on that sugar addiction? And we probably all, and to some degree, may have it. I know I have a sweet, what I call a sweet tooth, but it's not I guess the tooth that I'm feeding is something else. So can you talk to us about that?
Well, I know that the body craves sugar, and sometimes the body craves sugar when you have certain mineral deficiencies. And so when I start getting that little itch, I go, okay, is there something low? Is my magnesium low? Like, what is going on? Why am I craving sugar? So for me, it is so important for me to detox because once I do a detox, and when I say detox, a sugar detox, I really just eliminate sugar. Like I do not use white sugar anymore, white bleached sugar. If for any reason I need to use any type of sweetener, I use date sugar or agave nectar. And sometimes I might use xylitol that's made from birch trees. It's like a natural sweetener similar to stevia.
Okay.
And the reason why I say this is because years ago when I was growing up as a little girl in Jamaica, we everything was sweetened with cane sugar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our sodas, our soft drinks, whatever the box drinks, the whatever beverages we would consume, they were sweetened with brown sugar. What I learned through Dr. Robert Lustig is that sugar now is no longer the sugar we grew up on. Sugar now is high fructose corn syrup. And so what happens with high fructose corn syrup, it is sweeter than sugar. It is cheaper than sugar. And so companies are using high fructose corn syrup now in almost everything because why wouldn't you? If you're thinking about profits and you're able to get larger quantities, a sweeter taste, more profit, why would I use
Why
cane
would you
sugar?
use cane sugar? Yeah.
Right. And so when you read and you watch this video, there's a YouTube video, I think I sent it to you. It's called The Bitter Truth, Sugar, The Bitter Truth. When
Mm-hmm.
you see what high fructose corn syrup does to the liver, then you understand why sugar now is so deadly because it is toxic to the liver. The liver can process regular sugar and use it for energy, but it cannot process high fructose corn syrup. It is actually poison to the liver. When you think about what high fructose corn syrup is in, you're thinking about ketchup, salad
Mm.
dressing, Oreo cookies, not Starburst, I'm sorry, Skittles, all those candies that you grew up eating and the drinks that you consumed. Like I remember when I was little, I love Hawaiian punch.
Oh man, me too.
Something about a whole glass of Hawaiian punch, right?
Yeah.
Nothing like it. But now when you look at these drinks, they have high fructose corn syrup. Even the cranberry juice, fructose corn syrup. So now we have to read labels because then you get these urges and these cravings and you're wondering, why do I feel like I gotta have it? It's just from what's in now in the food.
High fructose corn syrup. And that's all of the fructose, sucrose. What
Oh, so
else?
many names for sugar. So many names for sugar. I mean, corn syrup,
Uh-huh.
um, sucrose,
Yeah.
cane sugar, you
and
know,
and it's not just in things that we know are sweet, because you mentioned to me some of the like the potatoes. Did you mention
bread.
bread
High
and
fructose corn syrup is in baked goods like Oreo cookies,
hmm yeah,
um, things that we never thought about. It's in
wow,
that. I mean, I looked on the ingredients and I'm like, oh my gosh, who doesn't like Oreo
I
cookies? I
know.
mean,
I
you
I
open it
love
up, lick the cream, you dunk it in your milk. That's how
right.
we grew up. But
And what does that do to to like that our stomach? Because is that what leads to the you talked about, that acidic gut, is being the breeding ground for diseases and stuff. Is sugar playing a part in that, or is there other factors in that?
oh gosh, yeah, sugar is definitely playing a
Okay.
part
Okay.
in acidity in the body, mucus in the body. Sugar also, well, when you think about our gut, there's a gentleman who I read where he said your gut affects all the other parts of your body. Like the disease starts in the gut. Because see, we have digestive enzymes. Well, naturally we have stomach juices, right? When you
Okay.
eat food, it breaks it down and it goes to your cells and you get the full benefit of it. But if you don't have the right amount of probiotic and prebiotic in your gut, you find that the food is not being properly digested and it's just kind of sitting there and it leads to certain conditions. Leaky gut is one of those conditions. I take a digestive enzyme because sometimes we eat foods that have starch. So for those who eat dairy, sugar, protein, and there are all these digestive enzymes that break down those particular food groups. Now, if your stomach doesn't have it for sugar, enough for sugar, what do you think is going to happen? Or doesn't have enough for carbohydrates? And so eating more fruits and vegetables is what takes care of that, as
Okay.
opposed to I only supplement my diet with the digestive enzyme because I do eat some bread, some flours,
Hmm.
even though they're the spelt flours or the camel flours. They do have gluten in them, and there's still some things that are not necessarily the best things for us, but they're better than the alternative. The bread that sits on the shelf for 2 weeks and it doesn't go bad at the
Yeah.
supermarket. You got to wonder
Yeah.
about.
Right. So a question came in: is brown sugar okay?
Brown sugar is okay, but in moderation. I'm not going to say, totally eliminate sugar-free diet unless you have health challenges. Now, if you have a compromised liver or you have certain other things going on with you or you're not metabolically healthy, then you might want to steer away from sugar. My
Okay.
grandmother was diagnosed with diabetes when she was in her 50s, and she lived to be 93 years old. She did not have any of her limbs amputated, and her organs were in tip-top shape. That's because she totally eliminated sugar from her diet. She did not compromise herself. But then she had friends who were diabetic and they were like, I can't. I got to eat my potato. I got to eat my rice.
Hmm.
I have to eat white rice, white flour, and have to sweeten my tea with sugar.
So what? Because what can we eat to enjoy, to that sort of sweet craving that we all have? Because you even said to me, don't necessarily have to eliminate sugar, but minimize it, right?
Hmm.
Especially in the beginning. But like, what are the alternatives? I guess that's what we're itching to know.
You know what? People don't think about this, but like, for example, you're making a smoothie and you're like, man, wish I had a little bit of sugar in this. I'll tell you a quick story, right?
Okay.
So I was in Hartford, Connecticut, and I heard about place best juices. I'm not going to name any names. I went to this juice. So I noticed when the guy was juicing and doing this thing, I saw this brown thing that he was adding to the juice, and I thought, oh, it must be something like bee pollen or something, something healthy. So I said to him, what was that you put in my juice? He said, it was some brown sugar.
Hmm.
And I was just like, how am I ordering a green juice? We're adding brown sugar, right? What I learned was that some people want that sweetness. So when I made green juice for my children, I throw some apples in there. to sweeten the juice. I
Okay.
throw some kiwis in there because kiwi and apples, they're very sweet. And so that's how you get the sweetness. Or if you're making a smoothie, you throw a banana in there or a couple of dates, a
Hmm.
couple of pitted dates, throw it in your smoothie, and that's how you get your sweetness. So you don't have to sacrifice taste when you give up sugar.
Got it. That makes sense. Like I said, I got a couple pies and snack cakes, and after talking with you, I had to go and purge my cabinet. So, once they're gone, Georgia, they're not coming back in. But, I'm trying to get them out. I don't want to waste my money. But, once they're all out of the house, we'll adjust then.
You know what? I'm gonna send you some recipes that you and your wife can try. And I also have a book called Sugar Detox. It's
Okay.
a book with all these recipes. Like my children and I, we make pumpkin muffins, banana muffins, and without any added sugar. We just use the sweetness from bananas
Okay.
and dates,
Okay.
and so you're still and raisins. So you're able to still have nice baked goods that are sweet,
Yeah.
but you don't have
Okay.
to worry about the processed sugar.
And would you say sugar has the biggest impact on the midsection? I know oftentimes, women talk about their midsection and men talk about our abs. Is sugar a big factor in the ability to keep that area, I guess, slim and trim?
Oh gosh, I think so. Abs are so not loyal, right? Like
No.
I'll go to the gym and I'll be good for like a good month, and then one day I'll wake up and the abs will just come in. I'm like, oh wow, my hard work is paying off. And then I'll have some ice cream, and the next morning they're gone. Like the next morning, I'm like, I've worked so hard to see them, and the next day, like it was like they never were
It never
there.
existed.
And so I keep that in mind, when I have a goal. I'm like, man, I really need to stay away from certain things because even though it's healthy plant-based ice cream, I mean, sugar is still sugar,
Yeah.
and you're going to see it in your body, especially if you're not balancing out with other things. And we tend to eat healthy, but we go on our little spree sometimes. It shows, and you feel it in your body. You don't feel energized. You feel sluggish. Like a quick story. I met this lady at my church, and she was sharing with me that her daughter has ADHD.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, I'm really so sorry to hear that because I've been hearing that a lot. Didn't really hear much of it when I was growing up, but now it's like every other child, ADD, ADHD. She was telling the little girl was sipping on a beverage. I don't know if it was hot chocolate. And I'm like, okay, that's not a big deal. But then she had one of those fruits. They look like that lace. It's like different colors, like the rainbow, and you kind of peel them
Yeah, with
off
all of the string on it. It's like a
with a
taffy type.
string. Yeah, but
Yeah.
this one was like about an inch wide and about a quarter inch.
And different
And she was
colors.
just peeling them off. Yeah, and her mother was like, honey, you can only eat two of those. But while I was talking to her mother, the little girl ate the whole thing. And this was like 7 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh my gosh,
Wow.
this little girl doesn't have ADHD. If she's eating like this casually at church, I just
Mm.
can't imagine what's in her pantry or the cabinets at home because they have an impact on her behavior. And even this story, I decided to do some substitute teaching. And I really feel like God led me there for a reason because I would notice that the children who had like the little Cinnabons on their trays in the mornings, the ones with the frosting on it,
Yes. Yes. Like
right?
that on the breakfast tray.
Yes, the honey bun.
Yes.
Those children who would eat that and they would drink their little apple juice, or the ones who would come in with the what's that thing called, Pop Tarts.
Yes.
These Pop Tarts would have, of course, the fruit filling,
Hmm.
in addition to the frosting
On
and
top. And them
sprinkles.
little sprinkles to top it off.
And I'm telling you, I would watch those children, and I knew throughout the day the ones who were going to be jittery and the ones who were just not going to give me anything. They were just going to crash. It was just going to wipe them out. And I thought, how
Oh.
sad is it that in the school cafeteria, you have in the morning Pop Tarts with frosting and sprinkles
Hmm.
for children and the sugary fruit filling. It's like sugar on top of sugar on top of sugar. It's
Yeah.
like three layers of sugar. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is what our children are eating.
Wow.
And we're going to pay for it.
And by afternoon time, you said those kids,
Oh, they're
yeah,
they're they're out. They're out. Don't you see why, children when they go to school, right? After lunchtime they get recess.
yes,
Right
majority
after
of the
lunch,
time.
they go right outside in the playground, right? Because they know, do not let little Georgia and little Charles go back to class with all that energy, right? But then after they get back from recess, they don't get any new instruction. There's no math or English. It's usually computer, music,
Kind of
art.
like the electives.
Yeah, because they know like there's nothing coming in. Like this is it.
They can't focus on those core classes
Oh,
after that.
no, no, no. You get that stuff out in the morning. 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, you do math and English. That's it.
Wow. Yeah, and I've seen those lunches too, and I've been at the school with my son and had breakfast with him, and it's just a sweet montage right there of all of the stuff that that's
Mhm.
full of sugar. So why is it that only about 12 humans are metabolically healthy?
12%.
12%, yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you think about a lot of the illnesses that people are diagnosed with, it's normal to have someone say, "Yeah, I take high blood pressure medication," or "I take metformin because I'm pre-diabetic," or and a lot of these
Mm,
illnesses are they're lifestyle diseases. They really are because you'll have someone like my husband was had high blood pressure
okay.
before he had cancer. He also had he was pre-diabetic and he was taking metformin. And very rare will a doctor say, listen, start working out, lose some weight, change the way you eat, drop a couple of pounds, your A1C will go down. You don't hear that a lot. You hear, I got something for you. I'm going to write your prescription, come back in 3 months or come back in 2 months
Hmm.
and we'll see. Right. And so a lot of the average American is not metabolically healthy. I mean, when you look at the obesity rate, when you look at the amount of people with heart disease and high blood pressure and diabetes, and this is not just exclusive to a particular race or class of people.
Okay.
It's the majority of us are not metabolically healthy.
Because of our good health,
High
high
cholesterol.
cholesterol, all of those things. Um, how do we how do we change that? What do how do we rewrite that narrative, individually?
Well, you focus on leadership, right? You
I do.
focus on equipping leaders and empowering leaders. And we are leaders in our home,
Hmm.
right? As far as parents, right? We are leaders to our children. So educating ourselves. I've had to educate myself where I have an adult daughter who I feel really bad. I did not do the things for her that I did for my younger two now.
Hmm.
We did go to McDonald's, we did get the fruit roll-ups with the KFC, snack pack.
Yes.
And we did get the icy orange drink with the meal. I did that. But you learn, you educate yourself with the information you receive. And corporations can do a better job, educating their employees. The same way you're able to bring in a financial advisor to teach them about money management, how to not live from paycheck to paycheck, debt management,
Hmm.
credit management, because I did those seminars,
Hmm.
for corporations where we went in and we educated the employees. Corporations owe it to their now to employees so that you'll have less sick time, right, away for the children or the parents, right?
Yeah.
In addition to disability, people leaving to do surgeries or taking time off to recover from those said diseases that are lifestyle diseases.
Mm. So we got to educate ourselves
Yeah.
and then make the adjustment with the knowledge that we gain. And as parents and leaders, even in corporate, and you can talk to us about that, like corporate spaces, the foods that they provide for events and meals, because you do lunch and learns in the corporate setting. So help out our leaders for a moment in those lunch and learns, the breakfast that they provide. I know I went to one recently. I think I shared with you. It wasn't nothing but like mini muffins, cinnamon buns, and then they sprinkled in this
Right.
little
Bacon.
right, a whole bunch of bacon, and they sprinkled in a little fruit tray, and if everybody was to go to that fruit tray, like it wouldn't have been enough for us, but it was plenty of sweets for us all. Talk to our corporate guys and girls, leaders, real quick.
So I've been in the industry, the financial service industry, for 26 years. And so I've attended many conferences, many seminars, many workshops, and I will tell you this, there's an abundance of treats, right? And that's okay to have treats. But what I will tell you is the food selection. It was when I became plant-based, and I don't say vegan, but I'll say plant-based because that's what I eat, plants, because there's so many different interpretations of a vegan, right?
Okay.
I would go to these seminars, I would say over the past, say, 3 years, wait a minute, 3, 4 years. I would go to these seminars and they would say, what would you like? Do you have any special dietary restrictions or requests? Them. I remember to look, Asian, like they told someone to look out for me, like she's gonna be there. She's the person who gets the veggie kebab. So I was just like this unicorn in the room, right? So the guy has this thing, he's guarding it with his life, right? It's covered because it's only for me and it's catered for me, right? And it's like maybe 10 veggie kebab, right?
Oh my goodness.
So I go over there and I'm like, let me try to eat as much as possible. I took like four. I get back to my table and everyone is like, where'd you get that? Where'd you get that? And I'm like, I want to say, it's really not for you, but I'm like, they should be able to have some too. But that just goes to show you how at most of these events, they do not provide solid plant-based meals. Yes, there'll be mixed, vegetables there. There'll be a salad. There'll be salads, but it's or a fruit salad if it's, breakfast time. But for the most part, in the mornings, it's, bacon, eggs,
Right.
potatoes, right?
Yeah.
Sausages. Depending on where you go, there might be some, grits.
Mm-hmm.
Once in a while, I've seen grits, like when I went to a conference in New Orleans. But for the most part, it's heavy
Yeah.
fat.
Yes, ma'am.
It's cholesterol, artery clogging foods, and a lot of starch. So corporations can now look at the change in landscape and see how everyone is becoming very conscious. Like I'm hearing so many people say, I don't eat meat anymore. I only eat fish, or, I'm trying to stop eating everything and just stick to, eating plant-based food. People are becoming more educated, more empowered, more enlightened, and they're like, I don't have, you know, eat a steak to
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm eating a healthy, hearty meal. And so corporations can do a better job with providing more selections and not let the people who are plant-based feel like they're strange.
Right. Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
But let that be the norm and maybe have something else there, like, fish and chicken and let a lot of fruits and vegetables be there.
Yeah. Let that be the primary.
Yes.
Yeah. So, do we actually have a scarcity of that type of food in certain areas, food deserts, as you will, when it comes to getting people in certain areas that type of food?
It's really, really sad because I remember when I lived in Connecticut, I would go to a supermarket that's close to the urban area, right? And the selections were very meager when I was looking for organic and fresh fruits. Even the vegetables look withered, the fruits look, bruised. But then I would go to, say, West Hartford, where it's more of an affluent neighborhood and more of a suburbs. And, there's like this huge organic section with all these organic fruits and vegetables. I realized, oh my gosh, they're catering to their demographic.
Mm.
They know that, these people have this, there's this a need for it. And so we're going to supply it. Now you have food deserts where you can't even drive a town over and get, good produce. And I'll give you this example. I have a friend who went to visit relatives in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And when she went there, she just said, I'm tired of the supermarket. Even the apples look bruised and rotten.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to have more produce, but I don't have the option. And I'm tired of eating chicken and meat and all this stuff. I really wish I could have even a salad with some chicken breast on it.
Okay.
So I said to her, oh, don't worry about it. I'll just go to Amazon Fresh and send you a package because that's just going to be, I'm just going to do something nice for my friend.
Right.
I was not able to order food and have it shipped to her because there are no Whole Foods within like maybe 100 miles. and they're not going to drive, 100 miles to deliver food to
Mm-mm.
her. So I decided, let me check out Prime Now or HelloFresh, and no, none of these organizations gave me the option to have food
To
delivered to my
deliver
friend
to
in
that
Fort.
area.
No, but where I live now, I mean, I can order my groceries, and within 2 hours, it's on my doorstep.
Right.
No, and it's
Wow.
funny, and it's great for me, but it's
But it's
unfortunate because
unfortunate
there's
for those
someone
other
else who does
areas.
not have the option to eat fresh fruits and vegetables. They just do not have that option.
Wow. 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 And so you talked about earlier how we love our steaks and our chicken and we don't want to give that up. And, the American culture, we kind of glorify our meat. I know for Father's Day, the only thing I didn't want any gifts. I didn't want to go out. I just wanted a nice steak dinner with some asparagus and potatoes, right?
Yeah.
And, my wife provided that for me. And I had my little medium rare steak and just,
Ooh.
and so steak, potatoes, fried chicken, juicy hamburgers. One main concern people typically have when it's like sacrificing flavor when they're going to transition over to plant-based. So, how can someone transition now to a plant-based lifestyle without sacrificing flavorful food?
Okay, well, I always say to individuals I always ask them, do you eat a lot of fruits and vegetables? Right? Because that's important. If your palate is not already introduced to certain types of vegetables, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to eat asparagus. I'm not sure if I want to eat mushroom. But if these are things that you already like, you'll just remove the beef and just eat more of that, right? And I think when we spoke the last time, I said try a meatless Monday. And here's how your meatless Monday would go. You'd make all your other side dishes, whether it's broccoli, kale, spinach, whatever you would normally have for your vegetable, or a
Hmm.
salad, right? And so instead of a steak, you would get like a portobello mushroom cap. They're like this big, they're huge. You slice them out, or you just keep it in this whole state and you grill it. Now, when you grill it the same way you would grill your steak. Let it marinate too. Put a little bit of Worcester sauce on it,
Uh-huh.
a little bit of garlic powder, right? Let it
Okay.
marinate for a few minutes and put it on the grill.
Okay.
It's not going to take as long as a steak would, but I'm telling you, by the time you get that thing off the grill and you slice it up and you put
Mm.
whatever little glaze or marinade you would normally put
On
on
my
your
steak.
steak, you'd be so surprised how delicious that thing tastes.
Wow.
Hmm.
And still you don't have to eat more of that to feel full.
You don't, because, like, remember, now we're eating to be satisfied. And my whole thing is, when I tell people who like to get a nice big plate of food, okay, eat a big old salad, or
Mhm.
just throw some more broccoli in there,
Okay.
and don't compromise the taste. I find that when we're cooking vegetables, we kind of just put them in some water, cover it up, and it's like that's
We
vegetables.
don't give them no tender love and care.
Right? But whatever you would do with your meat, like put some Cajun powder or some Cajun seasoning on your vegetables with a little bit of coconut oil, like spruce it up the same way you spruce up your meat. Because I'm telling you, like last night I made king oyster mushrooms for dinner with curry chickpeas and wild rice.
Oh,
I mean, it was such a hearty, delicious meal. The chickpeas, the wild
yeah.
rice, the mushroom. It was hearty. It was filling. But it's only because I tell myself I'm not eating to be stuffed. I'm eating to be satisfied. And if I want seconds, I'll eat seconds.
Yeah.
But you're a lot of people think, you're going to be hungry right after when you eat a plant-based meal. But truth be told, you feel satisfied. You don't feel stuffed. You don't feel like, oh, I need to take a nap. You don't get those feelings that you would normally experience when you eat a heavy, high carbohydrate meal
Mm,
or high meat meal.
yeah. Now I was gonna
Try it
ask
too.
you because you're from the islands if you had any special tips for our island folks because we got people tuning in. This we can actually officially say this is being viewed internationally, abroad right now. But you mentioned curry. So like any
Hmm.
other tips, for those who are from the islands and used to like oxtails and jerk chicken and curry goat and
Hmm.
even though I know on the islands, especially in Jamaica, they always talk about the fruit and like jackfruit and mangoes and soursop, but they do eat a lot of protein. So any other, like suggestions for our island folks, the West
Well,
Indies?
there's so many substitutes in the market. I don't eat a lot of them, but I do. I mean, and that's just because I was never really a heavy meat eater. And
Okay.
so it wasn't too hard for me. But there's some people who are really heavy meat eaters. So you have like, for example, I'm gonna throw this out, even though a lot of West Indians might not eat burgers, but you have like the Impossible Burger,
Mm-hmm.
you have Beyond Meat, and now some of those you cannot eat them
All the
often
time, right?
because they're high in sodium and high in saturated fat. But in moderation, you should be fine. But mushrooms are a great substitute for meat. Like there's this mushroom called chanterelle mushroom. It looks like chicken. Like when I slice it and I saw it with chickpeas, you cannot
Oh
tell
wow.
that it's not chicken. And so when I want to make like curry chicken, that's what I use. You cannot overcook it because mushroom takes like 2 minutes to cook.
Okay.
And so what you do, you make your sauce, you make your gravy, and you just throw those mushrooms in there. There's like there are about a good 10 types of mushrooms that I've tried that are great meat substitutes. And then you have seitan, that's like a meat kind of product that's made with wheat
Mm-hmm.
flour, and it can be cooked up like meat. So there are meat substitutes on the market. Tofu is another meat substitute. There's a Asian restaurant, fusion restaurant, and they sell all plant-based meals. And we've had General Tso chicken, and it
Okay.
was made with tofu. And I'm telling you, like, I had a meat eater
Mm-hmm.
meet for lunch over there, and she was like, Georgia, you could not tell me this is not chicken. I mean, it tastes
Wow.
so much like chicken that I have to look at it like really. I open it, I cut it open, and I look at it like, no, this thing is too true.
Oh wow. Do you have a recipe book?
I'm working on a recipe book. A lot of my friends, a lot of my followers have been asking me about um, a recipe book. I'm on Instagram as Georgia Wright-Lane,
Okay.
and I post some of the foods that I prepared. And so a lot of times people are like, wow, you need to do a cookbook.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm working on, and it should be out by the end of the year. It's a labor of love because you never think what you want to put in the book is good enough. You're like, oh, please, this is not a big deal. But then someone will be like, wow, this is so delicious. What's the
Mm-hmm.
recipe? What did you put in it? I'm like, it's like no light work, 5 minutes, just
Wow.
chop stuff up. But I'm telling you, the key to eating healthy, just make it the way you want it. Just throw some things together that you like, whether it's asparagus, whether it's mushrooms, no matter what it is that you like, just throw it together
Mm-hmm.
and season it. Like I have this sauce, it's like a habanero mango sauce. That thing it makes everything taste good. So the key is in the spices, the key is in the seasoning, and the key is in the sauces. Just throw whatever you have on anything plant-based and
Mm-hmm.
watch how you wake up the flavor in those vegetables.
And our bodies aren't going to miss, and we're not going to be deficient in anything, not having the steak and the chicken, and so. But what about children? Because it's a whole different, you know, animal trying to get kids to eat healthy and enjoy it and not fight you. I have a very picky eater already. I
Hmm.
feel like it's only pizza, popcorn, and like spaghetti that
Hmm.
he'll eat those items, and McDonald's.
Hmm.
But it's hard to get him to eat anything else. He will every now and then take a smoothie, but just a real picky eater. Sometimes it's the texture, it's the smell.
Hmm.
No condiments, no sauces. Everything is plain, and so I know that's a struggle for probably not just myself, but a lot of people. And many
Yeah.
critics claim that a plant-based diet can be harmful for children. So just that lack of nutrition. I don't think my son's getting all the nutrition he needs from popcorn and pizza and a hamburger from McDonald's, which the hamburger from McDonald's is probably detrimental. But is it safe for children to eat 100% plant-based?
Well, my children do. They have been vegetarian since birth. When I was pregnant with my second child, first baby after 14 years, I became a vegetarian. So after she was born, I was like, uh-oh, what do I do now? I can't
Okay.
give her the little Gerber rice and chicken in a jar, right? Because vegetarian in vitro. So now, like, what do I feed her? And so that was a challenge for me. But I somehow made the transition to plant-based because um, I knew that I did not want her to eat the little jars of chicken and rice and beef
Mm-hmm.
and rice, and did not want her to drink the formula because I did supplement with my breast milk with formula. I did soy. Later on, I learned it was no good, and so we quickly switched over to other plant-based milk. Almond milk was one of them. Well, one of the key things for me is always, when you get your lab results, check your levels, your different, whether it's your hemoglobin, whether it's the lipid panels that they do that shows you, what your cholesterol levels are, and also like your B12, magnesium, like these results you'll get those results after you take these exams. So for my, they're not, because gave up dairy like years ago because one of them had a hearing loss. And once we gave up dairy, that was it. That took care of that. One was diagnosed with asthma. We gave up dairy. Asthma was cured. So I saw how giving up certain foods that children need for bone growth, and brain health and development, we saw that they were still thriving. And so their levels are fine. The hemoglobin
Mm-hmm.
levels are fine. The doctors never said to me, your children are deficient, because one of the things that I've done, I've supplemented their meals also with minerals,
Okay.
um, different vitamins, liquid vitamins, B12, D3, and so trace minerals. My children are still getting what they need. Plus, I juice. So that's another way you can give them the minerals and the nutrients that they need. I juice kale and all these different fruits and vegetables that are tasty, give them some flavor. And that I feel is another way that I'm able to give. One of them is a very picky eater. I felt like that was how I was able to supplement her meals. But we do make the plant-based pizza, and that's okay. And we do make the kale puffs, which is potato and kale. We do kale chips. You can make fruit roll-ups for him. There's so many things you can do for children that they'll enjoy, and they won't feel like they're missing out on the other foods
Mm-hmm.
that are not good for them.
What about like dessert wise, having an ice cream cone? Is there a way to have that on the regular with some alternatives, or do you just every now and then try and get like, I don't know, a yogurt or something that doesn't have the fructose corn syrup in it? Like, how do you approach that? And I know it's probably different from everybody, but just a recommendation.
Well, my children, they love ice cream, so I make ice cream from scratch. But on the days when I to, juice, sorry, blend the Brazil nut or the almond milk and freeze it. And the days when I don't want to do that, there's so many plant-based options out there on the market. There's one
Oh,
called
okay,
Sweet Delicious. They have nice, great flavors. Also, Nadamu. I mean, they have like chocolate chip mint and,
okay.
strawberry cheesecake. So there, and then you have Ben and Jerry's. You have a lot of companies now that are catering to people who only have a plant-based diet. Now, you still have to watch the sugar
Okay.
content.
Okay.
So even though it might not be high fructose corn syrup, kind of still gauge it, like look to see, is it 27 grams of sugar per serving or 15 grams of sugar per serving? So my children, they call me the sugar police because when we go out and about, I'm just like, oh no, we can't have this. You know.
Okay, that's good. So there's that because I like ice cream myself. So wow, I heard you say that one of your you said your daughter hearing loss
Yep.
and you eliminated the dairy and that changed that. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That changed that.
Yeah. So
When I
what?
was a little girl, oh, go ahead.
No, ma'am. Go ahead.
When I was a little girl, I was diagnosed with asthma. I loved cheese. I loved ice cream. I loved cakes. All the things that I loved. We did not know that that was triggering my asthma. And so when I became an adult and gave up those things, I no longer had asthma.
Hmm. Wow.
Hmm.
So a lot of the issues we're having is going back to our diet, like you said in
Hmm.
the onset of our discussion. Um, so going to a plant-based diet, can I continue to eat fish? Or is there a meat that is
That's,
not like a substitute that is no like a meat?
I'm not
That's
going to
I'm asking
endorse
for a
any.
friend. I'm asking for a friend.
Be healthy, because here's what I want you to understand. There are a lot of people to be vegan who are very unhealthy. You have people who are what you would say the average weight, or you would say, oh, they're skinny, and they're very unhealthy. Because, see, the misconception is that, if you're overweight, you're unhealthy. That's not necessarily true.
Hmm.
Now, there might be some other issues where, it might affect your joints, like your knees, because your frame is a little different from when you were growing up. And so carrying around a certain amount of weight might affect your joints. But for the most part, it's all about heart health, kidney health, liver health. If those organs are healthy, then you're good. So I'm
Okay.
not here to tell someone that you shouldn't eat meat.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, if you find yourself, you're taking high blood pressure medication, diabetes, you know, high medication for high cholesterol, for
Hmm.
diabetes, and you have to look at what you're eating. Also, as we're getting older,
Mm,
we're not active. Does your lifestyle line up with your level of activity, what you're eating?
got it.
Are you burning off, all those carbohydrates that you're consuming? Is your diet should just never be high fat, high sodium, high sugar, whether you have a plant-based diet or you're a carnivore.
Okay. No, that's a perfect in the chat. They said a great point. Somebody's asking, and you may have to drop that in the chat for us afterwards, your recipe for ice cream. They want to know what you use to make ice cream and how you sweeten it.
Okay.
Um, because I want you to share with us what can we do to boost our immune system during the pandemic and even beyond that. Like, how can we boost our immune system? And I know you got some stuff on your site that you're going to share with us as we get ready, when we get ready to close. But just what are ways we can boost our immune system?
Well, for me, I do a ginger shot every morning. I juice limes, key limes, the little ones with the seeds. I find that those are more effective for me for bloating, just for a lot of things, for removing mucus from my body. It makes my body more alkaline when I use lime. Some people like lemon, but then, that's up for debate, which is better. Sometimes it's just, what works for you. I
Okay.
like key limes. That's what works for me. And I prefer fruits and vegetables, I prefer fruits with seeds. So I don't do a lot of the big old seedless limes where you got to roll it on the countertop before you juice it. So high vitamin C. Elderberry syrup is a staple in my home, a staple. I will not, go without it. As soon as we start getting close to the bottom, I make sure we have another bottle on standby. And once we open that bottle, I order another one. So elderberry syrup is high in vitamin C. So fruits high in vitamin C, obviously limes, lemons,
Hmm.
oranges. So we juice oranges from scratch. We don't buy the bottled ones. We juice them fresh. Um, Zinc, magnesium, just all those things that we need to have in our bodies, period. We just have to make sure that we're taking our minerals, B12, making sure we're getting our B12, our D3. A lot of times people are mineral deficient, and it's not that you're not eating. Sometimes you think you are eating the right foods. For example, in 1950, if you ate an apple, the saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Yeah.
Apple is great, right? It's also one of those immune booster fruits, like a tongue twister, right? Well,
Immune booster
here's the
fruits.
thing. In 1950, if you ate an apple, you would get your daily allowance, like what you needed, right? This would take care of, whether it's your vitamin C, whatever vitamins you need, right?
Okay.
If you want the same amount of vitamins or minerals, you would have to eat six apple,
How many?
26
26.
of
Wow.
today's
Of
apple and
today's.
apples in 2020, because the minerals are depleted from our soil. So the fruits and vegetables that we're eating, they're not even providing us with the minerals that we need. And so that's why for me, I supplement my lifestyle with a liquid mineral and with B12 and D3. As a matter of fact, I went to the mall the other day and got a B12 shot because my energy felt a little bit low. I don't eat meat anymore.
Hmm.
And so I have to be very vigilant about my B12, because studies show that a lot of vegans are B12 deficient. And
Oh,
so
okay.
even people who are not vegans, who eat meat, they're still B12 deficient and D3 deficient.
And that's why we get tired and
Vitamin D
sluggish,
deficient.
don't have any
Yep.
energy, right?
Brain fog, memory, even Alzheimer's patient and people with Parkinson's disease. Studies are showing that A lot of them is because of mineral deficiency. There's certain things that are not in their diet. And so if you start supplementing your diet now, you don't have to wonder if when I hit 60 or 70, I'm going to start with of them
Mm,
and all factors.
that's a great point. Start now. Start now. Put that in the
And,
chat. Start
and
now.
stay away from sugar too, because what sugar does is sugar weakens your immune system. Studies show that when you eat sugar, within like I think 20 minutes, your immune system is compromised by 50%.
50%. Okay.
Sugar.
Wow. Man. Yeah, you definitely need to get that book out for us because we're learning a lot. And it was elderberry. Is that
Elderberry syrup.
elderberry syrup? It was a question about
Hmm.
the type of syrup you said. So that syrup was elderberry syrup.
Hmm.
And you said a ginger shot in the mornings.
Yeah, ginger. Nothing. I love ginger. Ginger is so amazing. Great for inflammation, great for pain. I had a headache the other day, a wicked headache, and I
Mm-hmm.
was just sipping on this ginger concoction for like a good 20 minutes. And I'm telling you, it slowly dissipated,
Okay.
slowly dissipated.
All right. Perfect. So I don't want to keep you longer than I'm supposed to, than I booked you for, Miss Georgia, but I have so many more questions that I could ask you. But this has been great. I've learned a lot again. And I know from the chats that our viewers are learning a lot. And so I want to thank you for, sharing all your wisdom and wealth and everything that you've learned and how you've now taken that and built um, this amazing service, right? Through Alki and that's your
Yeah.
company, right? That you head up. So if
Mhm.
you want to talk to us a little bit about that before we transition to our lead questions. Yeah, talk about what you do through Alki.
Well, medical disclaimer, I'm not a doctor and I do not present myself as a doctor or a medical professional, but I believe that through foods, you can heal your body. I've seen it happen in my life. I've seen it happen in other people's lives. And so when I speak to individuals, I offer one-on-one coaching to individuals. I also do corporate lunch and learns, and I do coaching for corporate clients. A lot of things that I take for granted, like I just assume that, like, this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, no, I didn't. I'm like, you didn't know this? And so for the research that I've done, little that I have, we learned about just raw food, how raw food heals the body and eliminating certain oils and different types of processed foods, how it affects the body. When you learn about just how food interacts with our health, it
Mm-hmm.
can be to the detriment. Like whenever we eat, we're either feeding the disease or fighting the disease. You realize you just don't know. Like something as simple as acne. I have a 23-year-old who has beautiful skin now. But for years, she tried the most expensive products, whether it was Proactive and all these expensive skincare products, but it was her diet. It
Mm.
was really her diet. And so I'm able to help people, just show them the connection between what they're eating and what their health goals, even what their health goals may be. Even like, for example, a woman who is trying to have a baby, she thinks she's, infertile or whatever. And so she's having fertility complications. And I could show her, why don't you eat more foods that are high in folate?
Mm.
That get more folic acid into your body, and foods that are more richer in minerals and not necessarily a lot of the carbohydrates,
Oh,
the,
wow.
the rice and the potatoes and the meats. But how about we implement more fruits and vegetables in your diet with some supplements?
Wow. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Um, Georgia, we like to end all of our broadcasts by asking our guests the same four questions. We call them our lead questions because
Mhm.
they start with a word that starts with the letter that makes up the word lead, Lead. And so you talk about, your time in leadership and like we didn't even get into some of your background on the financial side, but like you talked to me about stocks and the stock exchange and just all of the stuff that you've done. You're definitely a leader in many spaces. And you also, led your family through many crises. And so I appreciate you coming on to share your wisdom and your expertise with us. And you even, like you say, you're not a doctor, but you went out, you got the education piece, you got certifications, you really, you didn't just, once you saw the impact that the knowledge you had could have on others, like you sought to do something about it and you created this amazing company that you head up. And so I definitely commend you on that. But now I'm eager to get your insight on our lead questions. So if you're ready to share your responses to those, I'm ready to dive into them.
Okay.
All right. So let's start with L. The L is for learn. So
Mhm.
during your years of leadership, what lesson have you learned that's impacted you the most?
Um, we assume that people know. We really do. We make an assumption that people know, and that because you're an adult and you've been on this earth for 50 years, like you do know this.
Mm,
But now we have to get away from that and educate.
okay.
We have to educate those around us, educate those in positions to impact lives, and let them know, like, there's some people who do not have certain information, and if you have it, share it. I think that's why it's important for corporations. They're educating their employees now, because you have people coming in doing financial seminars.
Mm-hmm.
Because when someone goes to sit down with a financial advisor, I mean, I've seen people who pretty much did like any, meeny, miny, mo with their 401k, or they look to their neighbor and they say, "What did you pick?" You know. Now, the person you're copying off of, 60 years old, you're 25 years old. Their investment objective is
It's
different,
different. Yeah.
but
Wow.
they're not educated to make these decisions, so you're kind of just winging it. So I feel like, you lead by example, and that's what I'm doing, sharing the knowledge and not assuming
That people
that people
just
know
know.
this, and being compassionate too, and allowing for grace, not being condemning. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
had to learn that, because I was like, how come you don't know that? That used to be my attitude, years ago. Like,
Yeah.
you should know this. And even though we're in a technology age and it's 2020, the information is still not getting to people. Like, because unless you go and seek and search, you're not going to find it.
That's a good point. Even though it's right at our fingertips, we have to
Hmm.
actually go and do the work to find it and draw it
Yeah.
out. E, expectation. What do you think is the number one thing people expect from a leader?
People expect leaders to lead, and leading doesn't mean just throwing around your authority to say, I'm in charge. Leading is, it's empathizing, because going back to what I said earlier, if you have employees who are not being taught about, proper, you have programs now, you have grants that are out.
Mm-hmm.
The city or the state is allowing corporations to teach people how to prepare healthy meals,
Right. Right.
right? Like, say, for example, people in the inner city. So you have like these food grants out there now, where chefs are teaching low income
Wow.
families how to prepare more healthy and nutritious meals. So what about if corporations do that for their employees, as
Wow.
opposed to assuming that they know how to eat healthy, nutritious meals? So leading by example,
Mm-hmm.
um, I believe, and being compassionate, because it's going to affect you somehow
Yeah. Yeah.
if your employees aren't well.
If they're not well. And like you said, calling out, missing from work, and yeah,
Disability, family
disability.
leave.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. I like the way you
Mhm.
drew that out too. Accept. A is for acceptance. What should a new leader learn to accept when stepping into a leadership role? So I'm just now about to be a leader. What do I need to accept?
Um, to whom much is given, much is required.
Hmm.
I mean, once you're a leader, I mean, it's like people are looking more at what you're doing as opposed to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Kind of like going back to me being a leader in my household. My
Wow.
23-year-old daughter is now plant-based because I'm consistent. My message is consistent. It's like, she can say, this is what mom does. And I've said to her, when I leave my house and someone says they know your mother, I don't want you to go, really?
Really?
Like, who you're describing is totally different from who I live with. I want them to, when they say things, you're like, yep, that's
That's my
her.
mom.
That's my mom.
That sounds
So
like her.
yeah, so accept the fact that, to whom much is given, much, and to be a leader, it just doesn't mean you get the position and you get, but
Wow.
Now you have to, it's going back to that example, being
Yeah.
an example.
Yeah. That's really good. And D, for decision, is there sort of a blueprint that you use, for making decisions? Like what guides your decision making process?
I'm glad you asked that question, Charles. That's a great question. It was tough making the segue over into this area. I mean, I'm a financial advisor. I was a financial advisor. I had a business. I
Hmm.
had an agency. This is not something that I wanted to do, but I learned as I got older, whatever I do, I want it to be purposeful. I even have a hashtag that I use, I've been using for the past several years, living intentionally. I
Hmm.
have to be intentional in
Mm.
I'm not motivated by money. I'm not motivated by how much money I can make. Like I did that already, in my youth.
Yeah.
Where today's going to be a good day. I'm going to close these deals and I'm going to do this. Yes, I'm going to help people. I'm going to change lives. But yeah, you did think about that paycheck at the end of the week.
Right.
I don't think about that paycheck anymore. And it's not because I don't want money and I don't need money,
Hmm.
but I'm not motivated by titles and accolades and the financial gain anymore.
Wow. Purpose, intentional.
Hmm.
Wow. I love that. Miss Georgia, how can our viewers, our guests, connect with you to either and hopefully secure your services, all of the wonderful things that you have to offer, to learn from you, get educated with you? Just where do they need to go? How can we connect with you? If I wanted to start this plant-based journey, I go to where do I need to go? What do I need to do?
Well, if you're on LinkedIn, you can find me, Georgia Wright-Lane. I think I'm the only Georgia Wright-Lane on LinkedIn. However, there are 40 Georgia Wrights out there in the world,
Okay.
I've learned, right? So Georgia Wright-Lane. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram, so it's at Georgia Wright-Lane. Then my website, I have a few websites, but my main website at the moment is the Alki Life. There
Okay.
you'll have a contact page. My phone number is there, an email address, and there's also a contact form. And on that first page, the home page at the bottom, you can subscribe to my news. And I hate you be sending out um, some weekly plant-based recipes.
Nice. And we'll be the first to know about that book
Hmm.
when it comes if we
I do
subscribe,
have
right?
another. I
Okay,
do
go
have
ahead.
another book though that is coming out soon. It's called The Real Christian Vegan. And
Oh,
in that book, it is going to be out, I would say, in another month or two. And that book just talks about um, how mighty leaders feast, mighty faith-based leaders, and also corporate leaders. What we eat, how we eat it, how we see food, and what we should eat.
hmm. And you say that's called the Real Christian Vegan.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Ma'am, this has been great. I want to thank you for your time today. Let me make sure I don't have any other questions in the chat. I didn't want to cut it off. I know we went about 7 minutes over, but I didn't want to cut our time off. Okay. The chat looks clear. I want to thank you, Miss Georgia, for stopping in this chat series. I want to thank all those who tuned in. Thank you for your questions, your great feedback. Please go and link up with Miss Georgia. Follow her on Instagram, connect with her on LinkedIn, go to her page, see if there's something that you can do right now. I know she has some detox um, things that you can purchase from her just to get started with cleansing your body first. So if you just wanted to start there, right? That's something that they can go and do. And again, so
Yeah.
go visit the page, see what she has to offer, and hopefully out of this, we all can live healthier lifestyles, true healthier lifestyles, not just looking good on the outside, but looking good and or being good, feeling good on the inside as well as the out. And we'll be
Hmm.
back next week. Join us same time, same place. We're going to talk about corporate trauma, the effects of it, and so you don't want to miss that as well. Again, until next time, stay together, stay healthy, because if we can do those things, we can come out on the other side much better than we were. Miss Georgia, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me, Charles. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye, everyone.